The wind of a new world blew softly over the wide colony fields as Captain Ethan Ward stepped down from the small transport craft. The soil under his shoes looked almost black, and the air shimmered faintly under the weak blue sun. He paused for a long time, breathing in through his helmet filter. Everything looked strange here, but something about it called to him. The ground, the air, the quiet, all of it felt like a secret waiting to be understood. Ethan had been told by the higher officials that this mission was simple. The human colony on this planet had been struggling to grow food and build lasting homes. There was talk of strange local storms, and some said the land rejected every seed planted in it. The real reason he had been sent, though, was that no one else wanted to come. People whispered that something about this world was wrong. He met the colony leader, Colonel Laura Penn, a thin woman with tired eyes. She shook his hand and tried to smile, but her face showed stress and fear. "Captain Ward," she said, "thank you for coming. I hope you have more patience than the last man we sent here." Ethan nodded. "I'll do my best. What do I need to know first?" She pointed toward the far hills. "There's a woman there, a native. People say she controls the land somehow. She keeps to herself, but sometimes she helps when our machines fail. The others. Well, they don't trust her." Ethan watched the distant hills. He could see faint lights flickering there, soft and warm like campfires. "And you?" he asked quietly. Laura looked uneasy. Might have met her only once. Her appearance is ... unusual. People say she looks wrong. Most of the colonists don't go near her. But if we can't fix this land, we'll have to leave. And she may be the only one who knows why. Nothing grows here. Later that day, Ethan walked through the settlement. Small houses stood crooked in long, uneven rows, and the people inside looked tired, their faces dusty and pale. Machines whirred weakly, pumping recycled air and struggling to process water from the dry plains. He felt their loneliness like a weight in the air. That evening, while checking the old irrigation pipes at the edge of the cropped fields, he noticed movement on the horizon. A lone figure was walking slowly toward the colony. She moved with surprising grace even though her steps seemed heavy against the dust. As she came closer, Ethan saw what had frightened the others. Her skin had a faint metallic sheen, and her hair caught the fading light like liquid silver. It was not makeup or clothing. It was simply part of her. Her eyes glowed slightly, not in a harsh way, but softly, as though they reflected the light of both suns. People nearby began to whisper. "It's her," someone said. Another muttered, "That woman again, she never belongs here." A few children ran to hide behind fences. Ethan's heart tightened. He stepped forward before anyone else could. "Good evening," he said in a calm voice. The woman looked at him for a long moment, almost curious. When she spoke, her tone was quiet but strong. "You must be the new captain." "I am," he said. "My name is Ethan Ward. You must be the person everyone keeps mentioning." She nodded slowly. "They call me many things. None of them are kind." Ethan watched her face. Others might have seen something unsettling. He saw sadness and patience behind her eyes. "Well," he said gently, "what do you call yourself?" She hesitated, then replied Lyra. He noticed the way her gaze moved across the cracked land, as if she could read the soil's story. "You know this place better than anyone," Ethan said. "Will you show me what you see?" Lyra seemed surprised. No one had ever asked her that before. She studied him for a long moment, trying to decide if he truly meant it. Then she nodded. "Come tomorrow at dawn. I will show you the truth of this planet." When she turned away, the colonists stared at Ethan as though he had done something foolish. Laura approached him again with concern. "Be careful. People think she is dangerous." Ethan smiled slightly. "People think many things when they're afraid. But fear doesn't grow food." That night, he stood outside his quarters, looking up at the two suns setting behind the dusty hills. Something inside him told him that the strange woman in the distance was not dangerous, only different. And sometimes, difference meant discovery. As the first stars appeared above the thin purple sky, Ethan promised himself he would find the truth, no matter what others said. Tomorrow, he would follow the woman everyone called unattractive, and see what made her so different. Just maybe he would find out why he could not stop thinking about her calm, glowing eyes. He did not know it yet, but this choice would change the fate of the colony forever. The next morning, The sky was calm and clear. A warm light spread over the hills as Captain Ethan Ward walked out toward the far ridge. The ground crunched softly under his boots. The air smelled like metal after rain. He carried a small bag with food, water, and a field recorder, though deep down he knew this trip was not about data. It was about learning to see differently. He found Lyra waiting near a line of strange stone markers that stood like tall fingers reaching toward the sky. The wind moved through her silver hair, making it shimmer like gentle waves. She stood quietly, her hands pressed against the soil, as if she could feel a heartbeat beneath it. "You came," she said simply. Ethan nodded. "You asked me to." They began to walk together through the uneven ground. In the distance, birds with wide, pale wings glided over cracked riverbeds. There were no other sounds except the wind. Lyra stopped beside a dark patch of soil and knelt down. She drew a circle in the dirt with her finger and looked up at him. "This land is alive," she said. "It should give life. But your machines dig too deep and hurt it. That is why your crops die." Ethan frowned. "We brought the best equipment. Should make the soil stronger." Lyra shook her head. "Machines do not understand. You must listen to the ground." She placed her palm flat on the earth again. "Here, feel it." Ethan hesitated, but then knelt beside her and placed his hand where hers had been. For a moment he felt nothing but dust. Then it came a faint vibration, soft but rhythmic, moving through his fingers. He looked at her in surprise. "There's something under there," he said. "Not something," Lyra replied, her voice low. "Someone the world itself. Every planet breathes if you let it." Ethan stayed silent, thinking. He wanted to laugh, to call it superstition. But instead, he remembered the tired faces of the colonists, the wilting fields, the lifeless machines. He realized maybe their science had not been enough because it did not ask questions beyond numbers. Lyra stood up and brushed the dust from her hands. "Come," she said. "I will show you another place." They walked toward a valley filled with strange plants that glowed faintly in the shadows. The flowers opened and closed like slow heartbeats, releasing a gentle perfume. The air there was softer, easier to breathe. Ethan looked around in wonder. "This place could save us," he said. "If we can make crops grow here," Lyra interrupted softly. "You cannot take it. You must learn from it." He turned to her. "What do you mean?" "The land gives only to those who respect it. If your people stop digging and start working with the rhythm, it will answer." Ethan listened carefully. "And teach me," he said. Lyra looked at him for a long moment. "You are not like the others. They look at me and turn away. You look and you stay." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I just want to understand." They spent the rest of the morning studying the valley. Lyra showed him how tiny streams under the surface carried energy and how touching them to roughly caused the surface storms. She spoke slowly, patiently, explaining how the balance of nature could not be forced. Ethan took careful notes, but also simply watched her, wondering how someone so gentle had been turned into a rumor of fear. At noon they sat on a rock, sharing small pieces of fruit from her satchel. It tasted strange but sweet. Ethan laughed softly. "This is better than anything from our colony farms." She smiled, her face softening. "Because it grows where it is loved." He paused, looking at her glowing eyes. "Why do you help us if my people have treated you so badly?" Her smile faded a little. "Because leaving others to suffer is not strength, it is weakness. Someday they will see." They returned to the colony before sunset. People watched them carefully. Some whispered again, and Laura Penn stepped forward quickly. "Captain, you were gone all day." "We were worried." Her eyes darted toward Lyra. "You should not wander with her. She fills your head with strange ideas." Ethan dropped his bag beside the gate. "They're not strange," he said firmly. "They're right." Before Laura could reply, Lyra bowed slightly and walked away toward the hills. The people stared after her until she was gone. Then they looked at Ethan. He looked at them all and said, "Tomorrow, we begin again. You'll stop digging holes and start planting carefully. We'll work with the land, not against it." Someone shouted from the back, "You talk like her? You trust that woman more than your own people?" Ethan's eyes hardened. Maybe she sees what we've all forgotten. When night came, he stood alone outside the colony's dome. The stars above shimmered brighter than ever. He could still feel the soft vibration of the valley under his hand, and he understood now why Lyra spoke the way she did. She was not strange at all. She was simply in harmony with something greater. He looked toward the distant hills again, where a faint silver glow marked where she lived. He knew then that fate had joined them for a reason, and that reason might be the key to saving everyone. The next few days were tense in the colony. The fields were quiet, the people restless, and whispers followed Captain Ethan Ward, wherever he walked. Many of the men did not greet him anymore, and some stopped talking when he passed. He knew why. They did not like how close he had grown to the woman from the hills. They said she looked strange, that her shining hair and glowing eyes meant she could not be trusted. Ethan had seen something the others had not seen. He had seen kindness in her face and courage in the way she helped, without asking for anything in return. Every morning he thought about what she had told him, that the land could heal if only they learned to listen. So he began to make small changes. He ordered the workers to stop using the heavy drills and told them to dig by hand, lightly and carefully. He sent small groups to collect the glowing plants from the valley they had visited together. The colonists grumbled, but he stayed calm and explained that this was the only way left to save them. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The soil looked the same, gray and dry. Some people started to say he had lost his mind after spending too much time with that odd woman. But Ethan remained sure. Every evening, when the last light faded and the sky turned purple, he saw Lyra standing far away on the ridge, watching silently. Somehow that sight gave him strength. One afternoon, as Ethan worked near the irrigation lines, Commander Laura Penn called him to a meeting in the control room. Her face looked hard and cold. Round her stood several of the senior colonists, all of them weary and angry. "Ethan," Laura began, "you are breaking orders from Central Command? You have stopped using our machines, and now food production has dropped again? People are losing hope." Ethan placed his gloves on the table and looked at her steadily. "The machines were killing the land. The soil needs rest. We will grow our own way." One of the older engineers snorted. "You mean asterisk, her asterisk way, don't you? The woman you keep meeting in the hills? What has she done to you, Captain? We hear stories. People are saying you've been bewitched." The room went silent. Ethan took a deep breath. "She is trying to help us because she understands this world better than we do. If we would only listen." Laura slammed her hand down. "We don't need her kind of help. She is dangerous. You've brought fear into this colony. People are starting to think you care more about an outsider than your own crew." Ethan's voice sharpened. "Call her an outsider, but she has done more to save us than all our machines combined. You say she is dangerous because her face is different, because her voice sounds strange, because she does not hide her light." He paused, his eyes hardening. "Maybe the only danger here is our own blindness." The room filled with muttering. Laura looked tired and shaken. "Go get some rest," she said finally, "before you do more harm than good." Ethan left the meeting without another word. Outside, the air smelled of dust and storm. Thunder rolled somewhere in the hills. He looked up at the sky and saw dark clouds building fast. That night, the storm arrived. The wind roared across the fields, tearing down fences and scattering tools. Electric sparks flashed in the clouds like fire. The colonists ran for shelter as the lights in the settlement flickered and died. From his window, Ethan saw something terrible. The energy lines that powered the oxygen towers had snapped, and the main generator was burning. Without power, the air systems would fail. Panic broke out. He ran through the storm, shouting orders, trying to keep the people calm. In the distance, through the curtain of rain and lightning, he saw a silver glow moving toward the colony. It was Lyra. She came without fear, her steps firm against the wind. When she reached him, her hair whipped wildly around her face, and light flickered from her hands as if the storm itself followed her. "You must leave the machines," she shouted. "The storm feeds on them." Ethan could barely hear her over the thunder. "If we shut them down, the colony will lose all air." "Then we must use another way," she said. "Trust me." Before he could answer, a flash of lightning struck the ground nearby, shaking the tower. She reached out, took his arm, and guided him through the wind toward the center of the field. There the ground pulsed faintly, glowing where she stepped. "Touch the earth with me," she said. He did as she asked. The vibration was stronger now, like a heartbeat beneath their hands. The storm's wild noise lessened, as if something unseen was calming it. The lightning faded into smaller sparks. The air began to stabilize. When they looked up, The colony lights flickered back on. The people standing by the windows stared in awe and fear. Lyra's silver light dimmed, and she wavered as if drained of energy. Ethan caught her before she fell. "Why did you do this for them?" he whispered. Her voice was faint. "Because they are yours, and because you believed in me." She slid into unconsciousness as the first quiet drops of rain fell. Ethan lifted her gently and carried her toward the medical station, his heart pounding. Behind him, the storm slowly faded, leaving the colony in silence. By dawn, the fields were soaked and peaceful. People gathered again, still whispering. For the first time, small green sprouts appeared in the soil. And though no one said it out loud, they all knew the truth. The woman they had called strange had saved them all. The storm had passed, but its memory stayed with everyone. The fields still smelled of wet soil and burned machines. The colonists walked carefully through the mud, whispering about what they had seen. Some said it was a miracle, others said it was witchcraft. But no one could explain how the storm had stopped just when Lyra and Ethan touched the ground together. Inside the medical cabin, Lyra lay on a narrow bed. Her skin no longer shone as brightly as before, and her breathing was slow. Ethan sat beside her, watching silently. The doctors had done what they could, but none of their tools could help her. She was simply weak, drained by whatever she had done to save them all. He stayed with her all through the night. When the soft light of morning entered the cabin, she opened her eyes. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Did they live?" Ethan took her hand gently. "Yes, you saved them. The storm is gone, and the power is stable again." She smiled faintly. "Good. Then it was worth it." He wanted to tell her she needed to rest, but his heart felt too heavy. "They should thank you for what you did." Lyra shook her head slowly. "They are afraid." "It is easier to hate what you fear than to understand it." Ethan looked down at her worn face and said softly, "I will make them see." When he stepped out into the open air later that morning, the colony looked different. The storm had broken many towers and machines. Several buildings had lost power, but there was something alive in the soil now. Small green shoots were growing everywhere. It looked like the land itself had awakened. The colonists gathered in the square around the captain as he spoke. "You all saw what happened," Ethan began. "Our machines failed us. Our old way nearly destroyed us. But one act of faith brought back life to this land," someone shouted from the crowd. "Faith in who? That woman? You're still defending her after all this?" Ethan's jaw tightened, but he did not raise his voice. "Faith in what she taught us. That life grows with care, not force. That we must listen before we take." Laura Penn stepped forward, her expression unsure. "Ethan, we cannot deny what she did. But people are frightened. They do not understand how she controlled the storm." "She didn't control it," he said. "She guided it away. She gave everything she had to save us. If fear is stronger than gratitude, then we've learned nothing." The crowd murmured again, lowered this time. No one argued. Several people lowered their eyes, ashamed. Over the next few days, Ethan worked harder than ever. He repaired the machines with smaller groups and taught others how to prepare the ground the way Lyra had shown him. The plants started growing faster, their roots holding the soft soil from washing away. The colony began to breathe again. Every evening, Ethan returned to the medical cabin. Lyra's color was slowly coming back, though her light still stayed dim. She often slept, but when she was awake, she spoke softly about simple things: the sky, the sound of rain, and how life never stopped searching for balance. One evening, as the sky turned gold, she said quietly, "Do you see now why I wanted you to listen to the ground?" Ethan smiled. "I do. It's teaching me more than I ever learned at the academy. We built machines to conquer planets, but we never tried to understand them. You changed that." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "You changed it." He listened. Outside, the colony lights flickered to life. A small group of children stood outside the cabin, holding green seedlings they had grown from the new soil. One of the youngest knocked on the door and peeked in shyly. "Is it true she made the rain come?" Ethan looked at Lyra. She nodded gently. "I didn't make it," she said with a small smile. "The land made it. Only ask nicely." The children laughed softly and placed the plants by her bedside. When they left, Ethan saw that her eyes were brighter than before. The next morning, Laura Penn came to see Ethan. "Ethan," she said, her tone softer than before, "we're starting a new garden at the east side of the colony. I'd like you to lead it." "What about Lyra?" Ethan asked. Laura looked uncertain. People are still nervous around her, but they're beginning to see. "Maybe in time they'll understand." Ethan nodded. "We'll make sure they do." That afternoon, he walked with Lyra beyond the colony fence so she could feel the sun again. Her steps were slow, but her face showed peace. They stopped near the first field of green, watching new plants sway in the breeze. "You gave them a second chance," Ethan said quietly. She glanced at him and said, "No, you gave them one. You saw worth where others saw nothing." The wind blew lightly through the fields. The colony behind them glowed with new life, and for the first time Ethan felt true hope. He looked at the soil, the new crops, and the woman beside him, and thought that maybe, just maybe, this was what it meant to begin again. The days turned into weeks, and the colony began to change in quiet but wonderful ways. Where the soil had once cracked open and refused every seed, now rows of green crops waved gently in the warm wind. The people worked in peace, and laughter started to return among the homes. It felt like the land had finally accepted them, and for the first time, hope did not seem like only a dream. Captain Ethan Ward walked through the new garden each morning, checking the plants and machines that now worked together in balance. He touched the soil with his hand and smiled because it felt alive. The lessons Lyra had taught him kept echoing in his mind. Do not take more than you give, and listen before you act. He saw children playing near the water stream they had built together. They were planting small trees and singing simple songs of thanks. Seeing this made him proud, but he also felt something deeper, a sense that this was the real mission he had come for. Not orders from faraway leaders, but to help these people find peace through understanding. Lyra walked slower now, but her strength had returned little by little. She often spent her afternoons sitting under one of the tall energy towers that the colonists had repaired, watching the golden skies and talking softly with anyone who came near. The people no longer turned away when they saw her. They bowed their heads politely. Some even began to smile when they passed her. One evening, Laura Penn came to find Ethan while he was repairing a water valve near the main house. There was a different tone in her voice. It was no longer sharp with command, but calm and grateful. "Ethan," she said, "you were right. We were blind. She saved us, and you made us believe in her when we were too afraid." Ethan looked at her and gave a small nod. Fear makes people stop seeing. "But Lyra never hated you for it." "She is kinder than any of us deserve," Laura admitted. "We want to hold a gathering tonight, a celebration for the first harvest. It would mean something if you brought her." That night, the colony lights burned brighter than they ever had before. Long tables were set outside with simple food from the new crops, and people stood around laughing, their faces soft and warm in the glow. Children ran between the rows, chasing each other with handfuls of petals. It was a night of peace that no one had thought would ever come. When Lyra arrived beside Ethan, silence fell for a moment. Everyone turned to look at her. In that quietness, the wind whispered softly through the trees. Then, one young girl, the same who had once been too scared to look at Lyra, walked forward and offered her a small white flower. Lyra took it gently and smiled. The girl smiled back. The silence broke into quiet clapping, then warm cheers. Lyra looked at Ethan, and her eyes shone softly again. "They're not afraid anymore," she said. "They finally see," Ethan replied. Later that evening, under the wide silver moon, Ethan found a quiet moment to speak with her, away from the others. The light reflected on her skin like water. "Will you stay here now?" he asked quietly. "The colony needs you." She looked toward the horizon. "The land is healing. It no longer needs my hand. But these people have learned enough to care for it themselves. My place was only to guide them. Now it is your place to keep them walking in peace." He felt his chest grow heavy. "You should not go. You belong here." She smiled, soft and calm. "I was never the one who belonged here. You were. You have given them a future, and that is enough." For a long time, they stood without speaking. The night wind carried the scent of the new crops, and the stars shone brighter than ever. Before dawn, Lyra started walking toward the hills. Ethan followed her to the edge of the colony. She turned to him one last time. You saw my worth when others could not see past difference. Never forget, Ethan, that worth is not in how someone looks, but in what they give. Her silver hair caught the morning light, and then she turned and walked away, her steps fading into the distance until she was only a sparkle against the rising sun. Ethan stood still for a long time. When the first workers began to gather in the fields, they saw their captain standing quietly, his eyes on the hills. No one asked him where she had gone. They all knew. Many years later, when the colony had grown strong and prosperous, children still told stories about the woman who made the rain come and the man who believed in her. Beside the central garden, a tall stone stood with words carved by Ethan himself. She gave life to the land and taught us to see with our hearts. Whenever the wind blew across the green fields, it sounded almost like a soft voice whispering through the leaves, gentle, wise, and peaceful. And those who listened closely swore it spoke a single truth again and again. Love sees worth that the eyes cannot measure.